Hey, it's White Boy Chris. If the Pat Downs ever made you laugh, then join our Patreon and support us. Get bonus content, a t-shirt, or an autographed copy of Rabbit, Miss Pat's autobiography. Visit MissPatComedy.com for the link to the Patreon, and while you're there, join our Facebook group.
Welcome to another episode of the Pat Down. We have a special guest here from the DA office, and no, I'm not in fucking trouble. I'm here to drop some knowledge on y'all that I learned that was some free knowledge. So I brought in a police office, a DA office. And
Sorry, it's flashbacks, Ramona.
Whoop, whoop. Usually, I don't even fool with DAs, but this is a good DA. What can DA stand for?
District Attorney.
Desperate attitude. I'm trying to think of something a DA stand for. But this is a good DA. And I brought her in today, y'all, to drop some knowledge on Chris and Dion, especially Chris, because he ain't never been to jail. And he don't know shit about what we about to talk about. But I'm about to take him on a Negro field trip. Ain't we, Deputy?
Yes, ma'am.
Deputy Attorney, right?
Deputy District Attorney.
Deputy District Attorney. Anything you want to say? Y'all need to stay tuned after the music to see if Chris can relate to this black shit.
I like that going to jail's black shit.
Nah, it's white shit too. Hold on, y'all. We'll be right back. Chris still gonna be white.
You better get up, get out, and tune into this podcast. This Pat spit the truth, spit the real facts. Nothing but the ugly, classy at the same time. Pat got the flavor, these are not your same lines. That's the politics, she been on the real grind. It could be pretty but ugly at the same time. Just tune in, put your lock on the spin down. Ain't no need for the wait and turn it up now. What you talking about? Is it real though? And cut the game, you get no play like Nintendo. You wasted time, turn it up, nothing but the ugly. Straight off the top, everything she say, you know it's funny. Full blast, this a taste of the future. Listen on your iPhone, on your desktop computer. Share it, tweet it, ain't no way to beat it. Nothing but the ugly, turn it up and gon' repeat it.
We ready?
Rolling.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Pat Down. I'm here with Chris Spangler, and Dion Curry.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Hey, and we have a guest here. You got to tell me your position. Her name is Ramona.
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm
Come to the close.
Oh, hello, everyone. I am Ramona Toole. I am the Deputy District Attorney in the office of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office under the great and wonderful leadership of Fonnie T. Willis.
And let me...
So for people who aren't from Atlanta, like Fulton County is Atlanta, right?
Basically, it's Atlanta, but it does spread out from Milton, which would be North Fulton, all the way down to South Fulton. But
okay,
most of Atlanta is Fulton County.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell y'all while I have it here today. So I went to an event, and I was asking somebody there about my criminal background history, and it somehow all I wanted was a mugshot of myself because I wanted to put it on a t-shirt. I wanted to say, hey, y'all, look how cute I was when I went to jail. So plus I could prove that I was skinny if I could just come upon this mugshot, because I know the very first time I was arrested, I was about 175, and nobody's never going to believe me unless I find my mugshot. So I've been down to the Atlanta, I've been down to the jail, I've been down to the county, I've been everywhere trying to get this mugshot, and I haven't had any luck. So I'm at a party or event, and I'm having a conversation with somebody, and they direct me to this young lady. So when I get a phone call from her office, they was like, "Oh, we want to talk to you about your background." And I'm like, I'm not worried about a background. I'm more worried about my mugshot. I just want to tell everybody I was skinny.
I know where I come from. I just want to see what I look like. I don't need a background.
So we got into a conversation, and another reason why I had a conversation with this person, because I can't get global entry because I'm a convicted felon, and my whole family have global entry, and I want to, I go out the country a lot, but I don't want to stand in the line. So that's the conversation I had, and they directed me to her. So we got there. We pulled my criminal background history, and we got to talking, and the reason why I brought on this show, because I learned something from being at that office last week that a lot of people don't know. I've also learned that, now when you go to get an apartment, you can't get an apartment because you have a criminal background history. I thought only if you was getting like something government like housing authority or something like that. I didn't know that regular apartments check your criminal background history. I haven't rented an apartment in years. I know it affects your job because it affects a lot of the jobs that I had. So I asked her to I gave her my information, she pulled my background, and they have it here. I don't want to really show it all the way. Let me hide the case number so y'all can get my information. But if you can
It's
see
only
it,
one sheet of paper, y'all.
but that's not. So I told them, I said, "Oh, that's not that bad." They said, "No, we modified it for."
What did Ramona? What did you modify on it? What is that? What is that piece of paper?
Those are the
signify?
convictions, not the charge.
Those are the convictions. Turn it up a little bit, so it's a lot thicker. It's like, nah, we just try to put everything on one page for you. So I'm having this conversation with her about fixing my background, and then I find out a lot of stuff that when I'm young and you poor and you black or you just poor, period, they made you plead to stuff, and you pleaded to stuff just to get out of jail. And so as she looking through my background, she was like, "Why would you plead to this?" I'm like, "Lady, I'm 18 years old. I done bust my baby daddy across the head. I just want to go home with a fucking kid." And so I pleaded to a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. And a lot of us don't even know that we shouldn't have pleaded to that.
Are you willing to share some of that stuff? Like go through what? Give us specific
case docket number 4470, Patricia Williams versus.
Because I know you've been in jail and arrested.
Roller skate to the head.
But I'd love to hear, like, so when she says, "Why did you plead to that kind of stuff?" Like,
which one of these cases, Ramona, that you asked me why did I plead to?
This was one of them.
What's that?
But that one here, BGCSA.
That's violating Georgia Controlled Substance Acts.
Okay.
That's drugs.
Now you're saying she didn't do that? You've seen her act, right?
She didn't violate it in the sense that she was on the drugs.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, all right. Dion got it. Okay.
I think gambling was another one that
Gambling?
I pleaded guilty to. Gambling it's a misdemeanor,
It's
right?
a misdemeanor.
Yeah,
And
but
they made it a felony?
No, it's a misdemeanor.
Okay.
A misdemeanor.
And some of this stuff I could have got out, like I have deposit bad checks. Honestly, y'all, I didn't have any money. So I wrote a bad check to buy grocery.
Hold on, Ramona, is there statute of limitations on this?
No, not now.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Pat.
But even like the bad check, I didn't understand why they prosecuted you for that.
Yeah,
the outfit she was wearing when she got prosecuted. That's why.
Were they essentially like stacking a bunch of charges to say, okay, well, you got the 3 years for this, 3 years for this, 3 years for this, 3 years for this, and then try to get you down? Is that what was going on?
No, so I wrote a bad check because at the time we, I have my sister kids and then I have my kids, and I'm struggling. Garrett has a little job. I'm a more of a stay-at-home mom. And we needed some groceries. So I was, how back in those days, this is 1995. So back in those days, you would write a check and try to beat it to the bank.
Yeah.
So I probably wrote his check and was trying to beat it to the bank. And by the time
Get set.
Bounce.
yeah.
There isn't anybody that didn't do exactly what you did.
but they was prosecuting us for this.
Mm.
And I went to jail and I had two of them. And I think I paid way more than what I wrote.
Mm.
I probably paid for $100 check. I probably paid $500. And I think I was on probation for doing this.
Oh, man.
Which is horrible. Who didn't write a bad checks in the 90s to try to eat or try to get by? And so I didn't realize this was even on my background until, they pulled it. Here's one where it says unbranding insult of an abusing a teacher. I didn't do shit to that teacher.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Unbranding.
Unbraiding.
What that mean? He didn't have no hair. He was a white teacher. I remember this. What is unbraiding?
It goes along with the insulting and abusing a teacher.
Yeah, I cussed him the fuck out.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Has anybody got tape from 30 minutes ago?
So here I played NOLO. And what I learned about NOLO is just really saying you guilty.
Right.
and it went against my what is that, a felon?
It's a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor. So I mean, I don't even know why they tell
So
you
you
that.
have to do community service for talking shit to somebody.
Yeah, that's crazy. How is that
I
even
think-
the law?
I think this one I ended up in that AA meeting because when I went to court,
Wait a minute. You talk shit to your social studies teacher and had to go to AA?
She was
Well-
she was supposed to go to Attitude Anonymous.
well, I went to.
Anonymous.
Let me tell you where I went. I ended up going to well, they checked my criminal background history, saw that I had 2 drugs charges, and the man automatically didn't want to hear. He's like, you been on drugs? I said, no, I sold drugs. And so I had to go to like an AA meeting and take drugs tests. And I'm like, I don't fucking do drugs, but he didn't give a fuck. And it was all to just stack shit against me that I didn't even realize at the time. You know, like I only thing I remember really doing is doing the violating the Georgia Controlled Substance, which was selling drugs.
Right.
And those are the felonies. Then I have a simple battery and obstruction. That had to be beating on my baby daddy.
Yeah.
Criminal trespassing, a felon. Is that a felon?
That's a misdemeanor. as well.
Misdemeanor. Here I pleaded guilty. I don't even know where the fuck I was at.
So these are all not all at once. This is like your record. This is things
This
that
is like
happen.
my record from 1989.
Wow.
1989. I started going to jail April 7, 1989.
How old were you?
I don't know.
What year were you born?
72.
So that's like 17?
17.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I got my first drug charge in 1990.
Could have been worse. She could have been at a Rick James party.
And so what I wanted to tell the audience is what I learned here today is to clean up your background in 14, because she works for Fulton County. So every county is different. And once she told me a lot of the things, once I learned a lot of the things from being in her office, she told me, well, what I was going to do before I met her, I was going to actually hire a lawyer. And she said she see people hire lawyers all the time, which doesn't make any sense because guess what? This shit is free. You can do this by yourself for free. So I'm going to turn it on to you, Ramona, because you know more about this shit. I know how to go to jail, but you know how to clean a nigga up.
Well, yeah. So why don't we Deputy DA Ramona Toole, Diversions, Records and Record Restrictions Unit. So why don't you just explain what is an expungement and explain it to me like I have no idea what you're what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. So really, Georgia is a state that does not do expungement. And when we use the term expungement, what we're saying is taking an eraser and erasing it off your history so that nobody sees it. So for instance, Florida is an expungement state. But Georgia has never been an expungement state, and we used to use that term all the time, and it's not true. What we do is we restrict your record from viewing from anybody outside of the criminal justice family. So any arrest, regardless of the disposition, as a prosecutor, I will always see it. The judge will always see it. Law enforcement officers will always see it. Anybody within that criminal justice family will always see it if the record has been restricted. Also, if you try to go for licensing, anything dealing with working with kids, the elderly, working with someone with mental health issues, even if it's restricted, they will always see it. So a restriction is better than nothing. I wish that we were in Georgia and we expunge records, but we don't. But at least we offer an opportunity for a restriction. And so that's one of my primary duties in the DA's office.
So if Pat were to come into your office with her record, what would that process look like?
I would pull her criminal history. I would look at the cases that are inside Fulton County Superior Court, because that's all I can do is the Fulton County Superior Court. And I would see what cases are on the Fulton County Superior Court and then look at the dispositions. See, has she ever used her first offender? See if she's ever had a case that was placed on the dead docket, because the dead docket is not a final disposition. Any cases that were non-pros or not presented to the grand jury, I look for those items to see if I can clean them up. And then I look for opportunities where a pardon may be an option.
So a disposition is what? What does that mean?
The disposition is you have to have a period on every sentence. So every sentence has to have a period. Every case has to have a final judgment. It has to have that period. So was it a case that they pled guilty to or nolo contendere, which you are correct. It is still a guilt. It is still counted as a guilty plea, but we sell it as it's a no contest plea, but you're still pleading guilty. You're still being sentenced. Was it declined to prosecute by the prosecutor? Was it dismissed for want of prosecution? We have to have a final disposition, and a final disposition is here's what happened to this case. Period.
Right. So how are we determining is when it comes to what's prosecuted and what's not prosecuted? Is that based off of campaign promises? Is that the local culture? Who's making the choice that when a case hits the prosecutor's desk, they go, because of the culture of the climate that we're in, I'm either yes or knowing this? Or is it based off of this broke the law to the letter that which I need to make a big deal out of it?
So what happens is that a person is arrested by a law enforcement officer, then they send that case to the prosecutor, whereas it's the district attorney's office, the solicitor general's office, municipal court, whichever is the prosecutor. In the state of Georgia, prosecutors have the discretion. So it is our responsibility after a person is arrested and review the file to determine what charges we are going to go forward with and what charges we're going to dismiss. And that lies within the sole discretion of that prosecuting office. So a lot of times an officer can arrest somebody for trafficking cocaine. And then maybe we've looked at the case, maybe it was borderline trafficking, or maybe there was some circumstances where we say, we're not going to do trafficking, we're going to do possession with intent.
And that's usually what they knock it down to, because that's what all of mine was knocked down to. Right. Possession with intent to distribute, which is violating Georgia Controlled Substance Act.
And so from a prosecutor's view, do you knock it down because the prosecutor looks at someone like a young Patricia and says, look, you're 17, you're not trafficking, we don't want you to have to go to jail for significant, like, is it just you look at each circumstance and then judge what to do with that case?
So I can speak for me. So I've been a prosecutor in a few months, it'll be 21 years.
Wow.
And so when I take a file and I look at it, I look at the whole picture. I look at the stop. I look at the search. I look at the criminal history. I look at the facts of the case, and then I make a determination. I do look at the age because I do think the age is a factor. Because we do have a lot of people, particularly with drug cases, where they will let the juvenile take the drugs because they feel like they get less time than an adult. And I take that into consideration. So with trafficking, it's about 32 grams is tier 1. And so we talking about it's 25 grams, 26 grams. That might be something, if they don't have an extensive history, that I'll say, I'm going to do possession with intent to give them an opportunity. Because when it comes to trafficking, it comes with prison time. Whereas with possession with intent, it has the option of probation and or prison time.
And that's what happened to me.
Okay.
And which it didn't help.
It didn't curb your... Yeah, I guess that's another question I've got. Like, as a prosecutor, with a young Patricia, I mean, you can't go back into that prosecutor's shoes, but like, just in her case, was the prosecutor trying to get her to correct her behavior? All right, we'll meet you halfway, like hoping you'll kind of get out of it. And, you know, there has to be consequence. Like, what do you think the thinking was when you look at that record, like based on your understanding of like the history of that era?
Well, some of the charges, and we did have a conversation when I was like, why did you plead to this? I think maybe they were looking at the history, looking at the facts, and they felt that she needed rehabilitation, and that would come in the form of jail time, or that would come in the form of probation. We have a lot more options today that we didn't have back when she started picking up these charges. But maybe they thought it would be rehabilitation, which is what the system is set up to do. It's supposed to, you do something bad, you come into the system, we're supposed to give you the tools that you need to be successful, and then you're supposed to go out into the world and never reoffend.
We all know that don't happen.
Ramona,
they lock you up, they put you back out there, they lock you up, they put you back out there. There's no rehabilitation unless you go and do a lengthy amount of time in prison. I mean, in and out of jail, Rice Street, or either in or out of Fulton County Jail, there's no rehabilitation there. I mean, and think about it. I'm just talking about from my point of view, guys. When I was going to jail, I just wanted to get out. I didn't. I fuck your rehabilitation. I need to get out. And nobody ever talked to me and said, you here you are in 1990 when I'm 18 years old. What do you want to do with your life? Why are you doing this? Nobody ever, not a prosecutor, not a lawyer, not a judge, nobody in the criminal justice system ever sat me down and asked me what the fuck was I doing with my life.
It's not their role
Huh?
to ask you that, though. It's not the criminal.
Well, she just said, yes, it is. Because if you're going to lock a person up and they're going to go through your system, I mean, here I am getting locked up in 1989 twice. And then here I am back in 90 4 times. So if you see somebody that young, and here I am for criminal trespassing, violating drugs, gambling, depositing checks. Nobody open up a file to say, hey, young lady, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, I guess what does rehabilitation even mean in your view, Ramona? Like,
Well, I mean, what after they locked you up the first time and you were in a place you didn't want to be, what did you learn from that? What are they supposed to teach you after that? Like, you kept making choices. They kept punishing you for those choices. And until you decided that, I don't want this outcome anymore, you kept getting the same result.
Well,
I don't know. What were they supposed to tell you?
Well, prison in the United States is for money.
I agree.
It's for money. But I mean, if you see somebody, and I'm not faulting anybody. Times have changed a lot. At least I hope. I haven't been in jail in a long time. I mean, but if you see somebody 16, 17 years old in and out the system, nobody, not a judge, not a lawyer, not a prosecutor, nobody's gonna say this is a kid. A lot of this stuff, I mean, we hope.
What would you have responded to?
I don't know. I was a kid at the time. I had
right.
In 1990, I had 2 kids.
That's what I'm saying.
Judge
Is
Bill,
they don't. He's not. The judge ain't gonna know what you're gonna respond. He sees 1,800, 2,000 kids.
But let me say this.
I don't want to be defending the prison by any stretch of the imagination.
Dion over here.
What I'm saying is there had to be some type of programs that I could have been offered. I was never offered anything. I mean, here I am with 2 kids at this time, and I'm 17, 18 years old. And I'm not mad. I'm just saying nobody. Let me ask you, Ramona, if you see somebody this age, 18 years old, coming into the system selling drugs and criminal background, do you take out the time and say, hey y'all, let's talk to this person. Let's see what they going. Let's see where they come from. Let's see what's in their mind. Do y'all do that now?
Yes. And so a lot of times when I'm in court, I will talk to a defense attorney, particularly if you see the age and the type of crime, like what's going on in his or her life, because that leads to our diversion program. My office, under the direction of Ms. Willis, we have a diversion program, and it is a 12 to 24 month program where they come in. I literally teach classes. I teach anger management, for instance. We offer them to do community service. We do an essay. We have them do a vision board. If they need an evaluation, we give them that. If they need a job, we have a great relationship with the Carpenters Union. If they need a GED or they want to go to college, we have a great relationship with Atlanta Tech. And so we have these services now that we say, hey, do you think this individual may want to be in our diversion program? And then the great thing about our diversion program is that once they have completed it, I will dismiss the case and I will restrict the record. So we have options that we can give to a young Miss Pat who is 17, 18, committing these, simple type of crimes.
Was these programs back then? Was there any of those programs back then?
I think a lot of the programs came in the early 2000s.
Okay.
But I will say one of the things that I talked about with you that I didn't understand is that you had the option of first offender and nobody told you about that. And so we did see that there was a period of time starting back in 1968 where people weren't advised of first offender. And the way Black people.
Keep going.
And so the way it works is that if you get sentenced pursuant to the First Offender Act and you do everything you're supposed to do without reoffending, without getting rearrested, without being brought back before the court, at the end, we will seal that and restrict that so that it acts as if it never happened. You don't lose your rights, your civil duties. You still retain the right to vote. You still retain the right to have a gun. You retain all of those rights, and you get the benefit of having it restricted. And somewhere in there early on, that should have been offered to you, and it was not.
You know, I'm not, I don't, one thing I try not to do is lie. I want to say my old attorney said, I'm not going to ask for the First Offender Act. And he told me this. He said, are you going to stop selling drugs? I said, no. He said, well, you don't want the First Offender Act. You go in jail. If you take this and you go back to jail, you going to jail for real. And I want to say that's why I didn't take the First Offender Act.
Right. So is that the case? Do you get harsher penalties on the other end of the First Offender Act if you take it?
Yes. So that's
Okay.
the
Hell yeah, you do.
Right.
When you
So
tell
you-
somebody you ain't gonna do something, and then they see you doing it.
Yeah, it does have a very negative side effect to it. So, for instance, if you're charged with aggravated assault is a felony and it carries 1 to 20 years. And say the judge gives you, 2 years on probation, and you get down to that very last day of probation and you messed up. You can be brought back before the court. Your first offender could be revoked, and he would have up to 20 years minus the 2 years you've already served to sentence you. So you're looking at an additional 18. So it's a very negative side effect if you don't do what
It's
you're
a
supposed
trap.
to do.
So the best thing to do is you went to jail for aggravated
You know what's
assault.
hilarious is the DA is sitting there and Pat's like the translator on Key and Peele, and the DA wants to.
She's giving government speak. Pat's giving hood speak.
Yeah, she wants to shake her head.
But it's a trap. And I want to say that's why I never took the First Offender Act. Because look, in 1990, right here, I got arrested April 17. I was back in jail for drugs again in December. So had I taken the First Offender Act on that drug, I would have got all of that fucking time.
Oh man.
So it was like a new charge. Well, you didn't take the First Offender Act. You didn't tell us you weren't going to do it. So we're just going to give you the time out for this. So I think that's why I never got the First Offender Act. Because, and thank God I didn't, because I'd probably still be in fucking prison.
So you had a good lawyer.
I had a pretty good lawyer. She know my lawyer.
Because he gave you good advice.
Yeah.
If he was like, well, I'm not going to do the first offender if you're going to keep selling.
So I want to go back to Dion's question, Miss Pat. Like, when you go to jail for that first time, like, what was your attitude towards it? Were you like, I can't believe they did this to me, or I messed up? I got to get.
charge was criminal damage, and I think it was knocking April 17, 1989. I think I was knocking out my baby daddy wonders. I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
He was cheating.
Right.
So I mean, at this time in my life, I didn't give a fuck.
Mm.
I didn't.
And you can't rehabilitate that.
Well,
I guess you had to.
You have to care first in order for me to help you.
Let me say this to you. I was in survival mode. Here I am, 1986, 1985, 1986, 14, 15, having 2 kids. So all of these years, I was surviving. I was trying to survive. Until it's not that I didn't want help. Nobody ever offered help until literally my husband came along and said, what are you doing? That was the first person to say, what are you doing? Why are you forging checks? Why are you doing this? But the system never, I mean, here I am, 8th grade dropout, 2 kids by a married man. We
You
getting.
didn't have any parents.
I have no parents.
Yeah.
But,
Had no parents.
None.
No
But-
parental guidance whatsoever.
whatsoever. But I was in the system. I had been to jail several times. And I even had a caseworker who, remember, after I had not killed, I had an abortion. So I was already in the system. But after I had those kids, the system just like, she grown now, but technically I wasn't grown. So I turned to crime to survive.
And it just repeats itself. There's, countless other people who are just like you who, were in and out of jail just trying to survive. Not because they're bad people, just they don't have anybody to help them, no one to tell them. And
But
then you
that's
get
why-
punished
that's
for
why-
that forever. And
That's why I
crazy.
wanted. Yeah, it is. And that's why I wanted to bring her here to say, you know, a lot of people have changed their lives like I've done. A lot of people have trying to get back on track. But one thing I know, and I've always said this to my kids, your criminal background history is more important than your credit. You can fuck up your credit a million times, but if you fuck up that criminal background history, I mean, you fuck up your criminal history, it's gonna follow you till you die. And I remember going to school to become a medical assistant, and when I couldn't get into a hospital because I was a convicted felon of drugs and aggravated assault. And this here made me on paper a very bad person. Where if you know me, you know I'm not that person. And you know, it's hard to sit in a job interview and say I was trying to survive. Nobody wants to hear your pity ass story. And I'm not here to always give a pity story. I made the mistakes, and I know what I did was wrong. Thank
Stay
God I
out of
don't
the
need,
survival job interviews.
huh?
Said stay out of the survival job interviews.
So, but I
They
think
make you do weird things.
I think it's great that you met Ramona and you have like a remedy to that, because here you are in your 50s, you're clearly like a good citizen, good mother, like, you know, pay
You're
a lot
Morgan
of taxes.
Freeman in Shawshank.
So
Pretty much.
So now, Ramona, like, what can Pat do with her record? Does she, how does that process work? Does she come in? Because you said, all right, you don't need a lawyer. Like, where do we start with Miss Pat? Is it just your county and she has to go to other counties? Like, help us.
So she has to go for every county she was arrested and every court in that county. She has to go to each and every one.
And she got to go to every court.
Every
Well,
court in
Let me
every
stop.
county.
I only committed my crimes in Fulton County and Clayton County. I ain't got that far to go.
Okay. All right.
I kept my shit local. I wasn't going to Douglasville fucking with them crazy ass white people.
You didn't come to Gwinnett.
I didn't come to Gwinnett. I stayed down there where they was used to niggas fucking up. So my crimes are Clayton and Atlanta. You can finish
Yeah.
telling them.
And so she comes to me, or anybody, that has an arrest. They come in and they talk to me. We pull their history and we go over it. I really want people to do this. I get so many people being retroactive. It's like, oh, they found the perfect job, or they found the perfect apartment, or maybe they're in a job that runs their history and they tell them, you have 24 hours to fix this or we fire you. And this process can take up to 45 days easily. Wow. And so a lot of people come to me and they go, I need this done yesterday. And so I'm trying to get the word out. Check your history. Go to your local police department. Ask them to run your history. And if you have arrests on there, convictions, non-convictions, maybe it's not even you, then you need to talk to the prosecutor that is responsible for that. And so
Wait, people have stuff on the record that they didn't do?
Yeah,
Yes.
my
It's
kid.
called being black, Chris.
Okay, but like, tell me more about that.
So I could get arrested and I get pulled over. I don't have ID, and they say, "What's your name?" And I say, "I'm Miss Pat." And then when they write down on the ticket, they write it down as Miss Pat. And if I'm a first-time offender and my fingerprints are not in the system, then when they fingerprint me, they're going to fingerprint me with the name Miss Pat. And I see that more often than you know. Well, then they find out that there's actually a Miss Pat, and now it's on her criminal history, but it was me that did it.
Wow.
And so we have to fix that. Basically, what we have to do is send you down to GBI, let them compare the fingerprints of you now compared to the fingerprints of the person who got arrested and used that name. And then once they see that the fingerprints are different, then we can fix that problem. But one of the options for Ms. Pat is, even though she didn't take advantage of first offender then, she could take advantage of first offender now. The law allows us to do a retroactive first offender. I can do an order. It does not put her back on probation, but I can do an order, put her on probation, do an order of discharge, and restrict and seal her record in one document. So she can get the benefits in 2025 of a retroactive first offender for her 1990 case.
And is it just that first offense, going back to her first offense? You can't do it for the biggest offense in her record.
You use it for either your first felony or your first misdemeanor, and you can only use it once.
Okay.
And so we
So
can
she
do
can
that.
sell drugs again? I'm confused. What are you telling me?
That's not her ministry.
What
Don't tell
that's what
that.
it sounded like she was saying. I can go back
Well,
and make it so that you can sell drugs again.
So
yeah,
that
I can sell
person-
drugs again as a non-convicted drug dealer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that
Can I own a
first-time
gun
offender,
after
will
all of
that-
this?
Oh yes, once you get all of this restricted, you will get your rights restored. Like
I'ma
there's
get
Back
you
to the
there.
trap.
like another conviction that she has on here. She's eligible for a pardon. It is another drug offense. She can go apply for
You
a
didn't get one
pardon.
from this administration.
not with this DA. No
Well, the
offense.
good thing about pardons for us is that it is on a local level. So it would be the Georgia Pardons and Parole Board and not Washington. But she can get it pardoned, and then after she get it pardoned, then she can get that restricted.
That's cool.
So there are
So-
a lot of options on
So
here.
what will her record, like she goes through this process, what would her record look like 2 years from now?
If she gets all this restricted, when someone pulls it for employment purposes, and you have to make sure you say employment purposes, because if you pull it for yourself, you'll see everything. But if you pull it for employment purposes, you should see nothing. But if I pull it, it's going to have what I see now, but it's going to have the words restricted for non-criminal justice purposes.
Yeah, so we're heard around the world. So Welsh listeners, I don't know what you're going to do, but like in the United States, I'm sure all 50 states have totally different rules. How many different places are expunged versus restricted versus you're just screwed? Like, give some advice for people across the country what they ought to do if they're in this situation.
If you're in the situation, pull your history, see what is the prosecutor. Like it will say, for instance, Fulton County Superior Court, contact that prosecutor, that prosecution office before you hire an attorney. Please, before you hire an attorney, because this is absolutely free. And you have people out there charging. I'm not shaming you all out there, but $5,000, $10,000, $7,500, which means Big Mama got to sell her house. Or put
I am shaming those people. If
Yeah,
you
can
want
we
to,
shame-
I'll shame it. Y'all are extorting people. That's not cool.
They have to eat too, so I'm not shaming.
No.
You don't eat by stealing from other people. You grow your own damn food. What the hell's wrong with y'all?
Let us
This
shame.
is why I asked her to come on, because I didn't know this. I could have walked in and paid for a $10,000 lawyer, and I didn't have to have Big Mama involved. But everybody don't have that opportunity. And when I learned out it was free, because I actually brought cash that day to pay, and she was like, "It's free," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is free." The pat down is sponsored by BetterHelp. We're always hearing about red flags about your partners, red flags in your relationship groups. What if we start looking for green flags instead? Therapy can help you identify those green flags, practice them in your relationship, and make your life a better place to be. BetterHelp online therapy is amazing. It's 100% online. It's so easy and convenient, y'all. You can access a diverse network of over 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialists. BetterHelp is so good, I had to send one of my kids. Let me tell you something. She was able to identify the green light in her. Thank you, Garyana, for listening to me and going to BetterHelp. Whatever you're going through, there's someone who can help. Discover the relationship green flag with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/patdown today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/patdown.
So you were saying that it's free to do
it's free. So, and that's why I wanted to bring her on, because I know so many people. that's in my situation. Thank God I don't need my background to work in this country. I'm in the entertainment business. Nobody gives a fuck what I do. Even when I went to work in Indiana and I was a manager at Speedway and they checked my background and they fired me. You remember, Dion?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not good enough to sell fucking nuts and gas in this country. and I haven't committed a crime in over fucking 25 years. So, I mean, and when you have this type of stuff on your background that you can just take out some time to get it removed yourself, from drugs and stealing or whatever, as long as you're not committing crimes now, I'm quite sure you can, if these stuff can be hidden, you can get a better job. You can get a better place to live. Let me ask you this, Ramona. For somebody to do this, how old do the crime have to be?
It doesn't matter. I had a guy come into the office. He had an open case from 1971. And I just jokingly said, are you just trying to get right for Jesus? And he told me he could not get into a senior assisted living facility because he had a 1971 open case.
It wasn't even a conviction. It was just he was being like prosecuted, but it never went anywhere. Or was that?
It never, for some reason, I guess it fell through the cracks and it never got prosecuted.
But-
And it was still an open case.
Do you think that's just the system fucking black people?
I think we don't know. We don't know because there's nobody to tell us. We lose a job because of our history. We don't get an apartment because of our history, or we don't get the job because of our history. And then we just figure out, well, now how we gonna make do? We never go back and say, why didn't you hire me? Why are you not? What can I do to fix it? Now, every case cannot be fixed as easily as Miss Pat's case. We do have cases where you do have flat out convictions. In those cases, you do have to get a pardon. And in some of those cases, you will have to hire an attorney at that point in time. But what I tell people is before you hire an attorney, contact the prosecutor's office first. Let them see if they can do it first. And then if they cannot, then hire an attorney or go to the Georgia Justice Project, where they have a group of defense attorneys who do it for free down in Atlanta. Hopefully every city, every state has something similar. But I want you to first come to me. If it's Fulton County Superior Court, let me see if I can fix it. And then maybe I can do it for free. And if not, then I'll send you to Georgia Justice. And if they can't, then hire an attorney. Because this follows you beyond death. Your credit report will fall off in 7 years. This will not. It will follow you past death.
Do you have some examples of success stories where this was done for somebody and then it just like totally flipped their life around?
Yes, one story in particular, and I'm going to try not to get emotional, was a young mother with 6 kids, and she could not get a job. She was trying to live legit, and she kept getting turned down. And she came to one of our record restriction events. We try to do a big one every quarter. We just did one on January 27th. And she came to one of our record restriction event, and we were able to restrict her record. And she hugged me and she cried. And I just remember her telling me her story about how she was struggling to feed her kids. And to know that she was struggling and all she had to do was know her history and contact our office, and we could have saved her and her kids a lot that they had been through. And I have a soft spot for that. I grew up in the hood. It was not all fun and games. I just got lucky because I have a praying mama. But I know that people find themselves in bad situations because they don't have resources and they're trying to survive. She never said she didn't do it, but she's still being punished years later.
Do you find people are hesitant to talk to a prosecutor? Like you say, oh, I'm in Indiana. Call the prosecuting
I ain't
office.
finna call Tyro Keita for shit. Fuck that motherfucker. He a piece of shit.
I've been through the system. I felt I got screwed. I don't want to talk to you people. Do you find there's hesitance in that keeps people from contacting you?
Yes, they feel like all we want to do is put people in prison.
That's all Tyro Keita want to do is put people in prison.
That's what they say.
Who the fuck is Todd O'Keeter?
Oh, goddamn.
Don't worry about it. But do you want to just put people in prison?
No, I do not. I've never been that person. I do have certain crimes that when they came across my desk, that's prison. I don't like people touching children. There's no excuse. And I don't like men putting their hands on women. No excuse. So when I got a DV case or I got one of the nasty cases, first thing in my mind is prison. But other people, other charges, I was wondering, were they lack of resources? They didn't know any better. Nobody took the time to tell them any better. And I think a lot about me and my sister and my brother. Like, I'm the oldest of my mom's 3 kids. My dad, we could be siblings, who knows? He was out there in them streets. And the things that we witnessed, either one of us could have been down this road, because it would have been easier. My dad did crack at the kitchen table with us. It would have been easy to take that route. But we had a mom who
That's crazy.
prayed for us. So you have me, who's an attorney, My brother is a retired Army captain, and my sister is in IT. That's just because we had a mother who said, you're not going to go down this road. But there's a whole lot of people who didn't have Rosie, and they went down the road because they didn't have any other choice. And so I keep that in mind when I'm prosecuting cases of young people. You know, did they have a Rosie? Is it possible that they can take my diversion class? Is it possible to give them maybe probation and MRT course, you know, and give them a whole lot of community service and strict guidelines and an anchor monitor? Are there other options other than prison? And I keep that in mind when I'm prosecuting cases, because I promise y'all, it could have been me. It could have been my brother. It could have been my sister, easily.
You know, as you say that, when I was 17, almost 18, I went on one of those Kairos Torch youth event things, and they went to the boys juvenile right out there in Plainfield.
Yeah.
And I met a bunch of kids who they all were just like me, except, you know, they got caught doing stuff that they shouldn't be. I mean, I wasn't doing some of the things those boys were doing, but like, you know, I had been out with friends and, you know, taking things from convenience stores and, you know, shoplift stuff, like, you know, things like that that get you started in the system. You know, these kids were missing parental. That's the only difference between me and them, was I had parents at home to stop me from making the decisions that they ultimately ended up making. Is that there was a buffer there. And hearing you two talk about, you know, Pat, clearly you didn't have anybody to stop you from that. And Ramona, you know, you said you was just your mom. Chris, you being from Plainfield, I mean, we all come from different places, and see how different we all grew up, and yet how the system, you know, it doesn't give any difference to us.
Yeah, meaning just every case, or what?
Well, just the way that it's the way that the attitude, the prevailing thought of, oh, you did a crime, so you're a bad person, period. Like,
is that I'm not hearing that from Ramona, but I feel like that growing up, that was always the attitude. Like Pat.
No, that's what I'm saying. The system says you are. Despite her, you know, growing up the way she grew up, she still works for the system that says, you know, and now as a prosecutor, she gets to do a little bit of discernment, but the system on paper stamps you as a criminal till past your death.
Yeah, she's not writing the laws.
I get that, but what I'm saying is you see how different the outcome can be just based on that one little thing that the quote unquote system is supposed to be there for.
Yeah.
You know, well, that case, it wasn't her case. It was my case. It was, you know,
I think it's so uneven, and it's a system full of human beings. So it's going to be, because as nice as Ramona sounds, it's like there's probably prosecutors that you know of in other counties or around that you're just like, I would never want to have to deal with them because they're hard asses. You know, it's just so uneven. Like Plainfield, there was a guy, I mean, and he had this attitude. He was a judge that if you got in trouble and you went before the juvenile court, he was going to give you the maximum sentence. Like that was his thing. He was well known in the area as like a hard ass when I was in high school. And so kids who, like my friends who threw corn off of a bridge and hit a car, they got the maximum penalty that he could sentence them with because of where we grew up. He's like, look, I have to send a message. There's not a lot of kids that come through. So to me, it's just so dependent on the individual prosecutor, the individual judge. Like,
right. But I feel like that's more pressure of keeping your job as opposed to what's best for the individual.
Yes. Because I can say this. I remember when I was living in Plainfield. Plainfield is Indiana. And my community was all white. And a lot of the police officers lived in my neighborhood. And because I was on a popular radio show down called Bob and Tom, Nakil was at Walmart and he stole a charger. And he told me that he was there for a ticket. I had no clue he was there for stealing a fucking charger. I go in the courtroom with him, ready to pay the ticket, and the judge say, well, I asked the people, I said, why is he here? He said, how fast was he going? He was like, he here for stealing a charger. We literally got charged $400 and something for that charger that was $8. And and they wanted to put him on probation. But I had a police officer in my neighborhood that told me, like he was in high school at the time, he told me what to call back up to the courts and ask for Nakil, so it would never be on his record. Think about this. Nakil was the same age as me when he did that little dumb shit, and he did have two parents. Along the way here, nobody ever, I mean, honestly, I just don't, nobody ever offer anything along the way.
You can't detach the economic situation from that. And like where you were living and Nikea grew up is the same town I grew up. Like it goes to what you're talking about. Like there is a small town, you can network with the people you run in, versus where you grew up. There's a ton of people. It's a more of an impersonal. They don't
system. Have enough people to care about the people there.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I mean that's basically like because more people get in trouble than people you have to deal with the trouble that they've gotten into.
They've got time to deal with the Charger and the Plainfield Walmart, but they also have the time to talk to you about getting his record expunged. It's you have achieved economic success to live in a place that afforded Nikea something that you didn't have as a kid, and like that's I think a huge part of it too.
Definitely.
Well, I guess what Chris is saying is move to the white neighborhood.
No, what Chris is saying is you had a friend. You had a friend. You had somebody,
I did have a friend. I did.
You had somebody who helped you, and that's always what it takes.
I had somebody who told me what to do to keep Nakil from having that record for stealing. You know that when I was getting arrested, nobody told me anything. All they said was make bond. That was it. And not that I'm mad. And let me just say this, y'all. This is 1989. There was some type of program to keep black people from having criminal back. I'm not even saying black people, to keep people from having criminal background history, but nothing was said. And then at that time of my life, who knows? I'm probably going to, it shows on paper, I was going to continue to commit crimes. So maybe I needed to wait till I was 52 years old to worry about this bullshit.
Can I ask you a question, Ramona? When you guys are charging someone with a crime and they're going through this whole process, at any point in time, do you tell them, hey, after all this is over, if you come back here and you can get this taken care, is there any follow-up from your office that tells people, once we're done with this initial situation, moving forward, if you want to, is there any conversation after that, or is it just, all right, I prosecuted you, I'm on to the next thing?
So with the exception of a first offender plea, where we advise them during the first offender plea, the answer is no. And it's no because we're not allowed to talk to someone who is represented by an attorney. So it's really put on their defense attorney to have those conversations. So once somebody takes a plea, we, even though they're no longer represented technically, we can't go to them and have that conversation. And so we just move on to the next case. And even
now, when you say you can't talk to them, what do you mean by that? As if you were to say something to them, then would that cause detriment to the prosecution? I thought that was already over.
It's unethical for me to talk to a person who is represented unless their representative is standing there. So if Miss Pat was there considering taking a plea,
okay.
I can't tell her, hey, let me talk to you about it, unless she agrees and her attorney agrees to allow me to talk to her.
So it's pretty much up to the attorney to say, look, I spoke with the prosecutor. Once this is over, you can come back and get this expunge or whatever you call it here.
Right. So she would tell the lawyer. You wouldn't tell.
But the lawyer never tell you that.
Yeah.
No, but my question was whether or not she would be in contact with whoever needs to be in, who would get that information. So you would tell the lawyer, and the lawyer's discretion would be to tell the client yes or no.
Well, the lawyer already know, so she shouldn't have to say anything. The lawyer really cared about it.
I understand that, but this is the check and balance part of, I'm just making sure that as a prosecutor, prosecutor, are you following up with every defense attorney? Hey, make sure you tell your client after all this.
No, nigga, that's a lot of work.
You could put it in a letterhead. That's the question that I'm asking is how do we, this is where we're at now. In the future, if we want to make it better, we got to ask questions and make changes. Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
But what I do, and my office does, again, under the direction of Miss Willis, is once every 3-4 months, we have a record restriction event. We
Right.
host them at different churches throughout Fulton County. We do social media, we do newspaper, we do radio. We've actually done TV where we get the word out. If you've ever been arrested in Fulton County, come to this record restriction event. It's free. I bring all the ADAs. I bring my paralegals. I bring my investigators there. So when you come to my event, we run your criminal history, and you actually get to sit one-on-one with an attorney in my office, and they will go over everything you have been arrested on and do something similar to this. This happened in Superior Court, Fulton County. We can help you. This happened in Clayton County State Court. You need to go there. This happened in Cobb County State Court. You need to go there. And we give that advice. And so we do about 4 a year. We just did one on January 27th. Our next one is June 7th.
You hear that, y'all? June 7th. If you're in the city of Atlanta, you've been arrested in the city of Atlanta, they're having another record restriction party.
Yes, at the C.T. Martin Center.
The C.T. Martin Center. You can come
Do the third one on Miss Pat Day.
And so
at the Great Baby
your
Party.
advice to if you're not in just Fulton, like if you're in here in Indiana, I don't think we do expungements, but I think there's been a law that's been working its way through. But like, just call your local district attorney's office. Google it, maybe. Yeah, it's not Todd Rokeita. He's the attorney general.
Call me. I have people calling me, and they were never arrested in Georgia. They were arrested in New York. And then I go on and I find out who they should contact and give them some direction. I don't mind. Tell you where to go. If it's going to help you in the future, get a job, get an apartment, whatever is going to help you, I don't mind helping you. Call me and let me give you some direction.
Give them your information so they can call you.
So my email address is ramona.toole@fultoncountyga.gov. So that's RAMONA.Toole, which is T as in Tom, OOLE @fultoncountyga.gov. And then you can also call the district attorney's office at 404-612-3017. That's my direct number. Give me a call and let me give you some directions. I want people not to lose a job because of something they did 10 years ago. I want people not to be not get a job because something they did 5 years ago. Or when you are old and you have served your time, you just want to go to an apartment with old people and enjoy your best days. I want that to be an option for you, and not because you did something in 1971. So let me give you directions. Let me help you if I can. And if I can't, I'll try to find somebody who can.
How did you get into this? You seem so passionate about it, and I love your spirit. Like, what did you want to be an attorney, and then you got into this line of work? Were you pursuing it? Tell us your background.
Okay, so
she's glowing now.
When I was an only child, my dad was a good guy to me. Mm-hmm. And then when my sister and brother came along, then that's when the drugs happened. And then he started being the driver of the getaway car because he had the Cadillac. And there were things that my brother, sister, and I experienced and saw that no kid should not. When I was in the 8th grade, I had a teacher named Larry Epperson. He taught civics, and he was telling me about the law and the Constitution. It was interesting. And so on a field trip, he took us to the Jefferson County Courthouse to meet a Black female attorney. Now, my dad's attorney was an old white man. So I thought all attorneys were old white men. I thought all judges were old white men. So I go into this courthouse, and I'm meeting this Black female judge, which blew my mind. And so I told her my story. And she said, you need to use what you've been through to help others. So I actually decided in 8th grade that I wanted to be a prosecutor because I wanted to put the bad guys away. That was my thing. All bad guys got to go to prison. I don't care what they do. But then I started meeting different people through life. I finally became a prosecutor. And then I started realizing how blessed and highly favored I was, and how we had a chance and some people don't. And then it started changing me. It started softening me. And then when I started working for Miss Willis, she said, I want you to do record restriction. I said, I don't know anything about record restriction. Learn it. So I learned it. And then when I started helping people out and I started hearing their stories, and I am a softie emotionally, I started realizing that we tell people you're going to go to prison, you're going to be rehabilitated. And then what? Then what?
You put them back out here with a record that nobody wants to harm. So what did you rehabilitate?
Right.
Not a damn thing.
They can't get a job. So they go back and do what they always did,
Yeah.
which is robbing old ladies at ATM machines or breaking into houses and cars or selling drugs because they have no other
They
option.
make you
They
black
gotta
on
eat.
paper.
You rehabilitate them. So this is what you do. You give them a bath and you put them back on a shitty
I'm black
pamper.
on paper. I can't get shit.
Yeah, you
Right.
put them back on a shitty pamper. They're never going to get rid of that diaper rash.
So I want to help you. You did something bad. We all have.
Yes.
I got skeletons
Chris
in my
have too. He
closet.
just got let go because he was white, but he won't tell it.
We all got skeletons.
I have no criminal
I
background.
did 87 and 55. I'll admit it.
Yeah. And Chris is also a transgender.
Oh, stop it.
So we all.
You hear how
some
she
of us-
said that?
What is that?
Did you hear how she said that? Chris is already a transgender.
But some
What are
of
you
us.
trying to say? He got to
something
go to
bad
two
and
different courts? What does that mean?
They got in trouble, and we got a second chance. So why can't we give someone else a second chance? And I am a supporter of second chances. Because
What
even
about
me,
second
I got
chances?
second chance. So now, if you mess up the second chance, that's on you. But I'm going to do my best to give you that alternative so that you can try to get a legit job and a legit place so you can support your family.
Now, y'all hear that? All you got to do is get this lady a call. She already gave you her phone number. If you're in the city of Atlanta, even if you're not in the city of Atlanta, she's still willing to help you to let you know where you can go. And let me say this before we go. Do not go out and get a lawyer first. Let her talk to you and see what she can do. Because this stuff is free. I just literally took my big ass down to the courthouse last week and did all of this. If I can do this with people stopping me in the hallway and asking me for dumb shit for pictures while I'm trying to straighten out my criminal background history. Hey, man, Pat. Nigga trying to go get a fucking record clean. Leave me the fuck alone. But if I can do this, truly you can do this. And one thing I've learned, if you got misdemeanors, is on one side of the courthouse in Atlanta. If you got felonies, there's on a different. So both sides work really well to help me get the things that I needed to get my background clean. And that's why I asked her to come on here. And I hope like hell this will help somebody to a new start. I don't know how to help you get your credit fixed, but I went out there and found somebody to help you if it can happen to get your criminal background history. I will repeat, if you are a child molester, do not call this lady. She's not freezing people who like baby dicks. So baby dicks is out of it. So do not call if you a baby dick liker. Don't call her.
Oh man, if we didn't have a respectable person on, I'd make that the show title, but I can't.
Yeah, I think that.
Don't make
What
that
about
the
the other
shit
side
title.
of the?
What you say?
You like baby vaginas? Don't call her. Either.
We don't need equal opportunity on this deal.
Yes, but if everything else, she's willing to help, and that's one of the reasons why she was so nice when I went down there. And I was like, "Can you please?" I don't even have guests on here. Y'all know that. I said, "Can you please come and tell everybody else what you told me?" To save them some money and save them some heartache. That you can do this shit yourself, y'all. It's literally take out a day and call this lady and walk in there and get all of this done. We had to fill out some paperwork. That's all you got to do. Just fill out a bunch of fucking paperwork for each case. I don't know what your cases may be, but I can tell you this. If you can get this sealed or if you can get this restricted, your life will be so much better.
Did you need your license and Social Security? What kind of paperwork did you need?
I had to bring my ID.
Her ID.
That's
Yeah.
your ID?
She
Okay.
needed her ID.
That's all you need, your ID.
We don't.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say when Pat said she was having on the Fulton County prosecutor, I thought she'd lost her damn mind. But you're like, I loved having you on. This was really, really cool and really interesting, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
I do want to give shout outs to Mr. Andre Moore. He's on my team. He also helps me.
Yes.
So if you cannot get me, you can speak to Mr. Andre Moore. I have a phenomenal team, and they put me in a great position to do wonderful and great things. So all of my team, Deontay, Mike Sean, Sekou, Miss Miriam, Miss Stacy, Miss Rennie, and Jason and Nadia. I have a great team to help me make other people's dreams come true. And I just want to make sure I say that I couldn't do it without them.
And let me tell you something. A lot of people ain't gonna be able to do this without you. And I can't thank you enough. You know, they're not convicted felons. They ain't never did shit. From being a convicted felon and somebody
Like I'm supposed to be sad about it.
Right, yeah. Sorry.
My bad.
somebody who's
A
always had
two-parent household there for a while.
fuck you.
My bad.
You know, somebody who's always had her background thrown up in her face, and my background stopped me from getting so much stuff in life. I mean, so many jobs. I mean, when I went to school, got a GED, and I went to school to become a medical assistant, and I just knew my life was back on track. They were like, nope, 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 and I'm like, well, what's the purpose of me stop stealing? When I try to get it right, then you pull this paper and still tell me I ain't shit. And that's why I want people to get their background fixed if you can. I mean, and to me, I don't need it, but I do think it's another accomplishment for me. And then maybe I can own a gun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and right now we need a gun. We need a gun, refrigerators, extra food, everything.
Wait, you can't own a gun now?
No.
If you had a gun and you got arrested, could you be like, yo, this is my first time not knowing I'm a
That's
first
a whole
shooter, man.
separate charge.
Yeah, that's a whole separate charge.
Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
That's why I always say, if you come in my house, I'm gonna eat you while everybody else shoot you. I can stab the fuck out of you.
Yeah, you can throw death threats, but
I can throw the gun at you, but I can't pull the trigger. I can throw the bullets at you.
Yeah.
But of course,
I need you to run real fast right into this. I ain't shoot nobody.
So let me ask you something. If I put the bullet in the slingshot, I can do that.
You could do that. You can do that. But you
in
got
the microwave.
a hell of a shot though.
Yeah.
Microwave.
Hey, come stand right here.
Yeah, why do you have all these
Pow. Pow.
It's my gun room.
Yeah.
Just push the button and it shoots for me. I can't touch
that's a
that
good
in
idea.
here.
You come through the door and the door knob shoot you. I didn't shoot him. The door knob pulled the trigger. I got it on camera. He turned the door knob and killed his damn self. I might need to get that deal until my record get
I'm
expunged.
just saying, you never touched it. I don't work that way.
Well, Ramona, thanks so much for coming
this is
on. We
great.
really appreciate it.
We really appreciate you. And again, y'all, if you don't get in touch with Ramona, be sure to send an email to Miss Pat Production at Gmail. Miss Pat Production Gmail. And if you can't get in touch with her, I would be more than happy to get Jasmine to forward everything over to
Get her paralegal, Jazz.
Can you do me a favor, Ramona? Can you tell me the name of the man who put you on to the judge? You mentioned a couple of people when you were in 8th grade. Could you just shout them out one more time? I don't even know if they're still alive, but I just thought that was cool that you remembered who inspired.
His name was Larry Epperson, and he taught 8th grade civics at North Birmingham Elementary.
Shout out to him being an awesome teacher, man. I love great
I did
teachers.
have a crush on him too, by the way.
That's why you paid attention.
You had a crush on a whole ass teacher?
He was a young white guy.
Yeah. Woo.
I'm not touching you.
Very cute, but no,
In Alabama, that was dangerous.
it was in Birmingham, of all places.
Birmingham. Jeez.
So, but no, it's Larry Epperson. And if he
know
ever
him.
sees this, please know that I am who I am because of you.
Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Pat Down. We wanted to do something so much different, something different, and I hope we did that can help everybody. Y'all, let's show some love for Ramona, the district attorney.
Deputy District Attorney.
Deputy District Attorney from Fulton County, for coming out and giving us some knowledge how to keep Negroes clean background. White people,
No,
you can
Pat's
talk
changed when
to.
she's inviting prosecutors to her house.
She's going full Republican, y'all.
That says a lot.
Oh,
Stay
you
away from
ain't
Junebug
lying.
Room.
Because you can say prosecutor to some people. Prosecutor, oh, you calling that bitch, I ain't going to jail. But this is a good prosecutor who want to help you get your stuff together. And please feel free to give her a call. Just listen to the podcast. Everything's in here. And I hope this helped all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of The Pat Down. Make sure you check out my website at misspatcomedy.com for all of my social media, my tour dates, my book. Make sure you spread the word about my podcast. Please rate and review. Please rate and review and share. Thank y'all so much, y'all. I've been Miss Pat.